Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Blockchain in Energy panel. My name's John Ferris. I work for a company called Electron, and we develop blockchain systems for the energy sector. We've recently announced an investment from TEPCO and are developing a number of projects funded by innovation grants and the Energy Entrepreneurs Fund to develop flexibility trading that enables collaboration between different parties and value stacking both vertically and horizontally, as well as an asset registration platform that can enable some of the projects that we're going to hear about later on to integrate with each other and change the market. We're hosting a hackathon in 2 weeks' time. If anyone's interested in attending and finding out more about our platforms, then please register at www.kwhack.com. Now, one of the questions that I'm often asked is, will blockchain transform energy? And I'm aware that there's a wide range of backgrounds in the audience today, so I think it's worthwhile pointing out that the energy sector is already being transformed. Whether it's decarbonisation, decentralisation as more people generate their own electricity with the growth of electric vehicles, or the digitisation of a grid that in many countries is still running on analogue technologies, as well as a convergence across sectors between electricity, heat and transport. The energy industry is being transformed, and I think maybe a more appropriate question is, what role has blockchain to play in the transformation of that industry? And it's an industry that's very slow to change. I had a meeting last week with one of the code governance bodies, and a quote from that meeting is, well, APIs, they're kind of new in this industry. I'm talking to suppliers that receive a database once a month on a DVD. Other parties have to send a fax. So new companies coming into the flexibility markets have cloud-based systems, blockchain-based trading of flexibility. They have to go out and buy a fax machine so that they can integrate with the industry. So it gives me great pleasure to moderate this panel. We've got three pioneers in the industry who are applying blockchain to problems in the industry. And I think on this panel it would be very good to explore the opportunities that they're finding, but also some of the impediments and the resistance to change in the industry. So I'll start by asking the panel to introduce themselves, what they're doing in blockchain, how they're applying blockchain to the problems. And I'll start on my left with Alexander Spuller.
Hello, my name is Alexander Spuller. I'm the co-founder of the Green Energy Wallet. In the future, we will see a lot more of green energy and renewable energy, and also a lot more of electric cars. But renewable energy is not as reliable in production as traditional energy sources. And the key technology of the future will be energy storage. And this is the field where we have found a solution. Our Green Energy Wallet combines the batteries of all participating electric cars with an intelligent system to use the batteries as a huge energy storage. And our solution consists of two parts. One part is a power box, a bidirectional charging station, where the cars and even your home batteries, if you will have any in the future, or the energy you're producing at home, can be connected to the grid. And our Green Energy Wallet app. And with this app, you can set your preferences, your events, so you will always have enough energy to drive, but the rest of the battery can be used with our intelligent system to generate profits for its users. And this can be as balancing power to the grid, or in the future, if the smart meter rollout continues, we can also buy energy when its prices are low and sell energy back to the grid when prices are high. And we have gathered a great team. So we have energy specialists We are cooperating with Lücke for the blockchain part of our product. This is where I'm actually from. And our CEO, the former barista car winner, Jutta Kleinschmidt, is giving her best, is working on connecting us with the car industry.
Thank you. And there's an interesting article in Reuters that was published either yesterday or today, talking about the charging technologies and how we're almost in a race like the VHS Betamax battle from video recorders in the 80s, where we don't have standards. There are a number of different competing methods of charging, some that allow bidirectional, some that don't. How are you engaging with the industry to address those issues? And do you see open standards as being a solution that the industry will adopt?
This indeed is a problem that there are no standards at the moment. So what we are trying, we are convincing the industry to find a common standard. But this is a long process, and I think it will need some years to settle out and that we find a common standard.
Okay, thank you. Next on the panel is Noel Shannon from the Hyperion Fund.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. We're launching the Hyperion Fund. It's an ICO next month. It's an ICO for solar energy. The difference about this ICO is that the coins will be directly related to the watts that we put into our solar farms. The renewable market is a massive market. As the whole world is moving from fossil fuels to renewable energy, the opportunity for renewables is absolutely enormous. Last year, the solar farms are no exception. Last year, they shipped over 100 gigawatts of solar panels. So it's growing massively. For the last 5 years, with my brother's company, Shannon Energy, we've been building solar farms in various parts of the world. We built a 150 megawatt farm in South Africa. We're building in Iran. We're building in other countries. The biggest challenge we face is funding and scale. There's huge opportunities everywhere. So by joining with Hyperion, we're going to solve that problem. The Hyperion Fund will give everybody a chance to invest directly through the wonders of blockchain and the peer-to-peer technology. We'll give everybody a chance to directly invest in solar power with the Hyperion Fund, and they'll be able to monitor how their solar tokens are performing on an annual basis. The holders of the tokens will have income from two sources: one from the power that's produced by the solar farms, and secondly, when solar farms are constructed, they start producing power, they have a lot more value than when they were pre-construction, and they're now of interest to the likes of pension funds, etc. So there's a lot of profit to be made, and there's also the benefit of knowing that you're doing something to save the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And you talk about there being lots of opportunities everywhere. Do you see a difference between countries like the UK, where we've had the feed-in tariff that's gradually reduced in value and is being phased out from 2019, and other countries around the world? And how do you prioritise your attention and your funds on the best opportunities?
So typically what happens when a country is trying to attract developers like us into develop solar farms, they offer a high tariff for a fixed period of time. That's called a power purchase agreement. So they typically give a high tariff of maybe 15 cents per kilowatt hour to attract developers in. And as they become more developed, they reduce the tariff, and finally they go to auction. The developed countries like the UK and most of Europe have reduced their tariffs, and now are like in Egypt, and they're offering a bid. You know, you can go into an auction and you can bid to build a solar farm at the lowest tariff. In Hyperion, we're going to focus on the emerging markets there where the tariffs are high and will be high for a 20-year period. And that's where I see the opportunities. Places like Kazakhstan, Croatia, all those Middle Eastern countries that have an underdeveloped solar market. That's where we see huge opportunity.
Great, thank you. And lastly on the panel, but by no means least, we have Adi Ben Ari from Applied Blockchain.
Hi, so my name is Adi Ben Ari. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Applied Blockchain. We're a tech company. We primarily focus on building solutions for clients using blockchain technology. We've been around for 2 years, or 2.5 years now. It's a team of 20 developers based in Level 39 in Canary Wharf here in London. We've worked on a really broad range of projects. So about half our customers are startups and the other half are corporates. And we've been doing all sorts of projects in some really exciting areas where people are looking to disrupt industries using blockchain technology. We didn't actually take any funding originally, so we grew the company to 20 based on client projects. Last week, we were finally able to announce that we're working together with Shell, and Shell has invested in our company now. So we've raised our first equity round, and also includes in it a VC, a London-based VC as well. So we're ready to grow, to develop some of our own product as well, and continue servicing all of these clients. Our clients, apart from the range of startups in the different areas, from legal to recruitment to financing, commodities, trading, and so on. We've also got corporates from the telecoms world, companies like Vodafone, aviation, working with CETA on a drones registry, very large Japanese car company, working with the United Nations World Food Programme on food distribution. So a whole range of blockchain use cases that you read about. We're really, I'd say, a group of pragmatic techies. So, there's obviously a lot of hype in this space and a lot of things being said, giving the impression that perhaps more is being done than actually is. We're very much the work on the ground and building and deploying these solutions into real production environments in some of the cases that we're involved in as well. In terms of the energy space specifically, we see blockchain as nothing more than excuse me, nothing more than a special type of database. And it's a database that's distributed between parties, and it allows them to communicate, share information, transact, and ultimately settle in a more efficient way than they can do today. And that's all it really boils down to. So wherever you've got a scenario where information is being exchanged and there's ultimately settlement, particularly of high value, and so there's risk of disparities between the different parties and how they see things should be settled, then blockchain technology might potentially be able to help. And if you look at energy trading, energy supply chains, there's a lot of complexity there and a lot of movement there and a lot of potential for bringing in this type of technology in order to make things more efficient. And that's really why I think Shell invested in us and the type of work that we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. We certainly agree that the role for blockchain in energy is in an area of sharing data, of coordinating and collaborating in a way that is becoming more and more necessary as the industry becomes more fragmented. Is there anything, given that this is your first foray into energy, having experience of different fields, is there any specific projects or problems in energy that you see as being different or can benefit from your experience in other areas?
I think energy is very interesting because it has a lot of the problems that I described earlier. So you have big and small parties, you have commodities which are actively traded, you have a complex supply chain, and you have all these different parties that have to settle with each other regularly. You have consumers and very large suppliers and so on. So you have all of these problems really that could be made more efficient. So there's a lot of room for efficiency. You also have parties which I think are in a position to move relatively quickly on this. So if we compare it to the banking world, for example, where I think it's a lot more difficult to move for the existing incumbents, in energy I think it's a lot easier, but there's probably just as much at stake. So I think energy is very, very interesting in that sense. From all the areas that we're involved in and all the industries, it's the one that we're seeing the most movement in.
Okay, thank you. That's very interesting that you see the incumbents as being able and willing to move. Noel, Alexander, I was wondering if you've any thoughts on that. Are the incumbents willing
It's
to
all
move?
relative, by the way.
Well, are the incumbents willing to move, or is there slowness in adapting, creating these opportunities and these niches for you to take the opportunities?
First of all, energy trading, if we talk about peer-to-peer trading, we think this is a very, very long way down the road. At the moment, energy trading is B2B, and all the grid operations are highly functional and highly complex. So it will be at the first stage, it will be the grid operators looking into how to employ blockchain, how can we use blockchain. But at the end of this way, and this will take, I think, another 10 to 15 years, the energy grid will be like a highway and a street network, and everybody can use it. And this is where blockchain will make a lot of sense in the long run. But what we see in the short term, as a lot of new renewable energy is coming to the system, and this sort of energy is challenging the power flows. There's a lot more volatility, more balancing power is needed. And this defragmentation is one of the reasons why new solutions have to be found for the system, and this is something that might accelerate this process, that the use of the blockchain might come faster than we suspect.
Yeah, I tend to agree. My experience is in solar rather than in trading, but I'm fascinated by the concept of blockchain and the permission it gives to have trading platforms in pretty much anything. So why not have the ability to buy and sell any asset that you could fund with ICO coins?
And a company like Shell is seeing a threat that they're an oil major. They are seeing EVs coming along. They're seeing a move, the decarbonisation of other sectors. Are there any other large organisations that you see as being threatened by this transition and by the emergence of blockchain?
Some of the threats that you talked about, I think, the energy sector in general, different types of fuel and so on. So I wouldn't say they're related necessarily to blockchain. I think blockchain is actually an opportunity for a company like Shell, and an opportunity for small players as well to potentially lay down new infrastructure and become part of this. I think Shell as a business, I can't speak on their behalf, but it's a huge business that actually touches a lot of different areas. And so the potential for efficiency from this type of technology cuts across the board. And if you look at some of the projects we're involved in, they're not just trading. There's all sorts of things where you're actually dealing with your counterparts. You can make things easier for your counterparts. You can make trade quicker. You can make settlement quicker. It is also about energy trading, but it's not just about energy trading. So I think there's a lot of, just like any technology disruption, there's a lot of potential here for everybody. And being decentralized, it's actually, it really opens things up. So you can make things more efficient for yourself if you've got a lot of touch points, as the large corporates have, but you can also become part of this if you're small. I think there is a lot of opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to open up the panel to questions from the audience. So I believe that there may be a roving mic. If anyone has a question for the panel, can you please raise your hand? There's a question down here at the front.
Hi, thanks very much. My name's Kevin. I've done some work in the gas shipping industry, so I've got a degree of familiarity with that. Over the course of the last 20 years, there's been an awful lot of regulatory change and disaggregation of the market and the roles that different players have taken have had a significant impact. And I'm interested to what extent you feel that regulators need to be embracing blockchain, and what role they have in terms of improving the take-up of blockchain and the sort of things that we've been talking about, and any conversations you may have had.
Personally, I'd be delighted to see more regulation. I think there's a lot of fear out there about ICOs, and whether the fact that there isn't a huge amount of regulation, and that puts. Oh, I beg your pardon. I'll let you handle that one.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I think regulation obviously depends which area of regulation you're talking about. I think for regulators in general, the issue is usually getting enough information in order to understand the risks. And the nature of blockchain technology is such that information is typically shared and distributed between parties. And so there is obviously the potential there for regulators to be able to tap into more information more readily than they can today. So there's an absolutely obvious potential benefit if it's played out for the regulators and from this technology. The same is actually true for financial services, but it just depends how the technology is being used by the players in the space and what the regulator eventually stipulates.
Yeah, I think there's a huge role to be played by the industry in educating the regulators in ensuring that there's a full understanding of the benefits of the transparency that are brought, that blockchain can bring. It does seem that one of the biggest impediments to getting the regulators to buy into blockchain a year ago was no one had heard of blockchain. Today, the biggest impediment is that everyone has heard of blockchain, and the level of understanding hasn't actually increased comparatively. So we're seeing a lot of interest from regulators across different sectors. They are paying attention, and I think particularly in the utilities sector in the UK, there will be opportunities that the regulators do allow. We're also seeing sandbox approaches coming in. So particularly organisations like Ofgem are looking to enable trials and testing new approaches in a way that wouldn't have been possible in the past. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'd like you to join me in thanking the panel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.